The main elements are about time, about perspective, about this vital experience being here, working all the time. It's about light, it's about many things. This idea of how we artificially have divided the time.
I come from Spain, and I was very attracted by the architecture in Pittsburgh, and so that what decided me to come here. I was living in Pittsburgh. Now I'm living in the Appalachians in North Carolina, but I was invited to come back and do a project at the Freak, and I came, and the Freak, looking at the building, Clayton, gave me these ideas about to develop something. I start from simple ideas, and from there I just start to get, let's say, wilder and wilder.
I have these 24 canvases, and in each one I reproduce a different hour of the day. So looking from this point of view, I turn around me and I recreate all this space, but twice. That means in 12 canvases I complete a whole round, and I paint twice everything, but with 12 hours of difference, because each one is a different hour, so it's 24 hours of the day. That means if I start here at 4, I continue at 5, at 6, in the morning, let's say at 7 in the morning, 8, but you know, I come, you know, like 12, 1, 2, 3, and when I arrive to the same point, when I complete a round, which is 4 in the morning, now it's 4 in the afternoon. It's a dance between me moving around and the sun going on the other way. And what I recreate in a way is the way that we measure time with our watch, because if you see the watch, it's 12 hours and it completes a whole round. I do exactly the same, but in this space, so it's connecting the space with the time. There is something called in architecture the spirit of the place, and that's a very important element. When I go to a place to find this, in a way, this spirit, that's because I do, my ideas comes when I'm, you know, looking at a place. This place, it's very interesting because in a way it's public and private. From here, moving around, you can see the surrounding of the building, and but you never lose the elements. I always, in each panel that I selected in the 24, you always see the house, and at the same time you see the surroundings. And even when you go opposite to the surroundings, you see the reflection in the window, which makes you see always the surrounding again. I am mainly sitting down here very low because it's also, in a way, like a child can see it, you know, from very low. It's not an adult view. And I like this concept about the innocence of the child, looking with a naked eye, surprising by the architecture and surrounded by it.
Okay, here we are in the basement of Clayton. We have a treat for you. Here we have Felix de la Concha's project that he's working on. Just come right in and watch it, it's wet. Now, imagine, you know that block that we saw upstairs on the, imagine it's right here.
Yes.
And Felix is sitting on the block and he's looking around and he's doing one of these an hour. Beautifully painted. So this is night, middle of the night, and we'll start here with dawn. This is dawn. This is an hour after dawn, an hour after that, through the morning. This is, what's that, Homewood Ave. And then we go here, this is lunchtime. Afternoon, this is about this time of day here. And then it moves into the evening. It's really an essay in light, and light falling on objects to describe the objects in space, describe the passage of time. But he's been working on this now for about 3 weeks. And he's about halfway through. And he'll only work on each panel for the amount of time, you know, from 10 to 11, or from 11 to 12. And once that hour's up, he puts it aside and he begins again on the next one. One panel an hour, 24 hours a day, and he's up there painting.
I use very traditional materials, just oils and just simple elements. In a way, it's a very naturalistic approach. I complete the whole thing here. It's not that I ever retouch anything later on. I have about 6 weeks to do it. I hope to complete it in that time. Depends on the weather, because it can rain and or get very windy. I'm, victim also of the elements.
Some people ask me if I have a favorite panel, but it's like a family. They are all my kids. Everything has to work as a conjunction. It's not about individual canvases. They have to have a correspondence between each other. When I see that 2 in the afternoon was going to correspond with just some details of the bricks, I thought, well, that can be very convenient because it's when it's Spanish hours for lunchtime. But it was not so easy doing because also bricks reflects light and it was a very delicate moment. After 2 o'clock, the sun started to hit in the terrace where I was painting. I had to set a big umbrella to cover myself from the strong sun that will hit the terrace. Perspective has its own limitations. You can see the limitations in perspective, especially when you are trying to represent very close elements. When I was painting the balustrade, because it was so close to me, I could perceive the limitations of perspective. I liked it that at night there was this light from the stained glass window with Saint Madeleine. Looked like she was watching over me.
I was practically living here. I was eating here, sleeping here in a cot, but it was living. It was, practically 24 hours, 7 days a week, practically always here. And so I was feeling like, in a way, even a ghost of the house, especially at night, I must say.
Every time you'd look around the property, he was either sleeping under a tree or under a bush someplace. So You never knew where he'd crop up at.
When Felix first came to us and he proposed doing a project about time and light, and he said he was going to be working 24 hours a day, we thought, oh sure, fine, that sounds great, but we had no realization that he would be working, in fact, 24 hours a day, having breakfast, lunch, and dinner here, sleeping on the grounds.
I mean, his habits are strange. He works very late into the night, sometimes early morning before he quits. And for me to see that was very unusual. I'm not used to seeing anybody working that late.
From an outsider, it can look like really boring to be standing always, in the same point of view without practically moving from here all day long, all night long. The guards are really shocked by this guy that's crazy, is without stopping working. But for me, it's not boring at all, because every moment is different. You want to capture this thing, and when you are more or less involved, you have to change canvas, because it's another hour, and so this light is not hitting the same way that I'm painting it. So I have to get involved in the other one, and so you have to have all these things keep going. So it's and the hours pass by so quickly and so fast. It's unbelievable. I have my hair cut, and I think that's a funny element, because it gives a sense of how time passed. It has been growing all along, and I just cut when the project was over. And the guards also, telling funny stories about my hair. But it's an element that really gives you the sense also of time passing by. Painting, I'm paying attention at every single detail. You notice things that in the first place you are not aware of, like behave there. And that when I started, actually I couldn't hardly see just a bee, and now it's completely crowded with different bees. It looks like a whole family has grew up meanwhile I was doing this project. When I finished to paint the exteriors with the Contrarreloj, I was thinking that it would be interesting to have a different approach to the interior of the house. So I proposed to come in the winter as a counterpoint to the spring-summer time of the exterior. The view of the exterior architecture is something that is done for a public eye. Every people that walk by can see the building. That's because I related that with the surroundings in this project. With these interiors is something about the intimacy, about something private. It's what the people that were living here or just the guests could see. My proposal was to do a diary with little paintings. I decided to do a single painting every day, and I did a personal tour in the house during those days. because at the end it's a calendar that as a whole is an existential view, is a living moment that I've been passing here with this experience in this house. Every day since 9 till 5, I was working in a single painting. And whatever happened that day, that was the result of what is going to be. It's like a ceremony, coming every day and doing this little painting, looking at a different place every day. Every day is a different day, and also every day is a different experience, every day is a different approach. Every day is a different challenge, and I have to face a different problem. Sometimes I need to be in a very low stool. Sometimes I have to be as high as this, for instance, like an adult view. But it's always in relation what I see and how it will work, better balancing the composition and the different approach to that. It's not decided like in the other part of the project just from the beginning that every single canvas was going to be a different hour and all that. It's not so programmatic like this. So it's something more how I feel in the moment. That day I want to focus maybe in a novel object, in a painting, in a picture, or maybe sometimes something humble like the potatoes in the kitchen, or something that makes the house as a whole work. One day it was this big snowstorm, and so the house was all closed, but I wanted to be consistent with my diary, and I decided to paint a view from outside. That day actually was my father's birthday, so I called him, who was in Spain, and told about the story, and he told me what happened if I don't paint for a day. And I say, well, I don't know, I've never tried yet. My mother sometimes has to face contradictory feelings towards my work. I remember once when I was a kid, I drew something on the paper wall of my bedroom, and because she liked it, she did not know if to punish or to congratulate me. Now it is the same. She really likes my winter scenes with the snow, but on the other hand, she says I'm killing myself, staying so many hours studying in the cold. Well, at least now she's so glad, knowing I'm working this winter in the warmth of this house. I believe in last-minute inspiration. That's because I can get different moment of inspiration every day, knowing that I'm not going to touch this canvas anymore, whatever happened that day. So every day was a different experience. It has been a different approach, and what happened in that moment is that what is going to be the result. All the house is surrounded by pieces of art. Many of them have these portraits of Mr. Freak, Mrs. Freak, the children, and they normally are looking at you, but also I'm looking at them. And so I interpret that. Sometimes, for instance, in this painting, the wing of the angel is slightly hiding his face, because it's a dialogue between also the objects that are surrounding everything. I want to be a neutral viewer, but it's inevitable that I have my personal way to look at the place. When people say that someone paints what it sees, it's completely wrong, because it's impossible to paint what you see. There is always a selection, there is always a personal view, and so it's always an interpretation of the elements. Living in the house for so many hours, spending here every day 9 to 5, you finally have a different approach than just a superficial view that can have a short tour. So I can study more steadily to the objects, to the perspectives, and I get more and more familiar with the house. So every day I started to be like a member of the house. I could feel like a ghost walking around and stopping in different places every day. Well, I hope I will communicate something to the audience. The canvases will speak to them, but everyone will see in different ways. I hope everyone can, at least at a certain level, enjoy it. And the public will perceive some of the excitement that I had here.